Good afternoon, everyone. I am not in a formal mood today. I've had a very busy week, and so I just thought I would pop in quickly at the beginning of this video, explain what it's about and why I made it, and just keep you in the loop, basically. So for a long time, I've been thinking about I want to develop my art practice. I feel like I cannot be alone in being somebody who feels like I've filled a bunch of sketchbooks, and whenever I go back through them, like when I make tours for this channel and such like, I always discover ideas that I had a long time ago that I just haven't used, and I feel like I should follow up on them more. But then, like, finding the time and the motivation to do so can sometimes be a little bit difficult because you always want to move on to new things as well. And I've also noticed a change in my sketchbook practice in the sense that I've been moving away from using a bigger sketchbook to using a couple of smaller sketchbooks, mostly because I've been drawing out and about more, traveling more, drawing on my couch more, as I am right now. And so I thought about how to evolve with my changing needs. And one thing that I thought about was, what if I bought a new sketchbook because I finished my old one, a big sketchbook to have at home, and I sort of make it a sketchbook 1.2, by which I mean I'm going to go back through my old sketchbook and look at all of the ideas, my first ever sketchbook, and for each idea that I see there that I like, I'm going to reinvent it and explore it more in this new sketchbook. And so that is the aim for this project, I guess, and this maybe I'll do some other check-in videos along the way, but I just wanted to film the process of me going back through the idea that I had for the first page of my first ever sketchbook and going over it again and seeing how I would reinvent it with my skills and my ideas the way that they are now. So thank you for coming with me on this journey. If you like this concept, if you like my other videos, please do give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, because I have a lot of other exciting content planned, come what may. We're heading into a very creative season for me. Autumn and winter always seem to make me feel really in the mood for creating, so hopefully there'll be a lot of exciting stuff, so please stick around, and I'll hand over to voiceover me to talk you through the process that I filmed for this. So this project began, as always, with a planning phase. So here you can see me selecting a later page in the sketchbook, and basically I just used a mechanical pencil and a normal eraser to plan out what I was going to do on my front page. So this was inspired by the first page of my first ever sketchbook, as I said, and you can see me here looking back at what that page looked like. It was this phrase, bad art to make the good art look gooder, but kind of in a very messy style there on the first page, almost as an afterthought. And I thought I wanted to polish this idea a little bit more, but try and keep that rustic kind of feel. And part of the reason I was so drawn to use this particular sketchbook in this project, where I want to make another version of my first sketchbook, was because that sketchbook used super white smooth paper, and that's exactly what this sketchbook that I have now has, which is the Stillman and Byrne Epsilon series, I believe. It has 150 GSM, very, very smooth white paper, but not so smooth that it feels bad to use pencil on, if that makes sense. Like, colored pencil can sometimes feel really bad on paper that's too smooth, but it's not so smooth. I really love this paper, actually. I've been craving smooth paper for a while now, after I just used 3 sketchbooks with a slightly rougher texture in a row. So I'm really excited to get stuck into this one. But as you can see, I'm just scribbling the phrase at the top there to remind myself what words I have to fit in, and playing around with some layouts to see how I could fit the words on the page in a way that would be aesthetically pleasing, testing out some ideas, not afraid to mess up or have bad ideas, and also experimenting with different letter shapes. So I decided quite early on that I quite liked these wibbly wobbly bubble letters because it felt very true to the original concept of this sort of wavy lines and a little bit of a messy feeling. And then also playing around with some different letter shapes at the top there, especially for the E's and A's, which have quite a lot of options. And I was quite impressed with myself how quickly I landed on this idea of trying to fit my wibbly wobbly letters into even wobblier blobs. Lots of scientific terms in this one. I think it was kind of inspired by a Domestica course I did recently. I can't remember who the teacher was, but it was about lettering, hand lettering. I bought it to fit, basically to finish my old sketchbook with a few lettering projects. But one of the exercises in that course was to draw shapes and then fit letters into the shapes. And so I decided that that's kind of what I would do here. In order to add some contrast, I decided to make the text that I wanted to emphasize less, so the words to make the and look, in a different style of text. So I used this sans serif square lettering there, and I had such a good time playing around with all of these different shapes and trying to come up with layouts that worked for me. You can also see me in a few seconds here experimenting with which areas I wanted to fill and which areas I wanted to keep as negative space, which I think really ended up being quite impactful in the design as well. So I really wanted to add some colour to this page, or to come up with some colour schemes, especially because the original was so bright. And so I originally started with I decided I wanted to use my dough and Inktense pencils for a start. And I was sort of playing around with a yellow-green colour scheme to match the original page, and then also tested out a blue and purple and also a greens colour scheme. But in the end, I think I settled on this sort of indigo with a touch of brighter blue mixed in, as you'll see quite a lot later. I don't know, it's just kind of what I was feeling on the day. I really like the high contrast element of the indigo, and yeah, I was really pleased with that decision. I really like all of these ideas, and I think that these planning pages in a sketchbook can actually be quite aesthetic, even though I put no thought into the composition of the page or anything whatsoever. I was just following my stream of thought, and it was really nice to just get stuck into the creative process of idea generation. So after I had an idea of what I wanted to do, it then came the slightly nerve-wracking process of planning it out on the actual page I was going to draw it on. So that's the very first page of the sketchbook. And I was using this Inktense pencil in, I think it's called Storm Dust. It's like a really nice mid-grey colour. And I was using it because I thought it would blend in really well with the indigo that I was going to use over the top. It would be a less strong colour, but it would still wash away when I added water, which was my plan. Just to colour all the letters in and then add water to smooth out the texture and intensify the colour. So that was just me planning it all out, and thankfully I don't think I made any spelling mistakes, which is a common issue when you're writing text like this that's important. And I've somewhat sped up even further the process of me colouring all these letters in because it took absolutely forever. I was only using this Inktense pencil in dark indigo, which indigo is a colour that I've been really coming around to recently. Indigo and Prussian blue. Something about that really deep, cool blue colour is just really appealing to me at the moment. And so I was just outlining each letter and then filling in the space with scribbly lines. It didn't matter about the texture because I knew that I was just going to add water to it later. You saw me sharpening the pencil there. One thing I've found about the Inktense pencils is that if you sharpen them too much, then the point does tend to crumble when you push it on the paper. I think when you see me drawing the lines around the edges of these blobs later, you'll see that a couple of times the point broke on me and I had to deal with that. But yeah. And as well as this, it was a little bit nerve-wracking to try and colour around the outside of all of these letters in the blobs in between the main words, just to try and make sure I didn't colour over anything important. but I think it worked out okay. Managed to keep everything under control, and really enjoyed this process. It was very meditative. I just had some YouTube videos on in the background or some Netflix, and just really switched off and coloured in. So please do join me in maybe starting a sketch or something during this video. The rest of the video is quite repetitive, but I think that it's quite relaxing to watch the process. When I was looking back at it, I was really enjoying editing the footage, and just watching the whole thing in 5 to 10 times speed is really ideal compared to doing it in 1 time speed. I think this whole process took me about an hour. I got a lot quicker at it with these later words. The first 2 words took me quite some time, but then later on I figured out a process I think that works quite well and got my pencil sharpness ideal, and it really allowed me to speed up and get into the creative flow of it. So in order to complement the indigo colour, because I was worried about it being a bit maybe too flat, I decided that I would add a little bit of the Inktense lapis blue, just a little scribble of it here and there, in hopes that when I added the water and diluted it all, it would turn out to just maybe brighten the colour in a few places and add a little bit more interest. It's hard to say if it worked because I don't have a test where I didn't do it. But I think that it did work because you can really see on the letter B there, the places where I put that lapis blue are a little bit brighter and more saturated. So I really enjoyed that. It's also very, very relaxing to activate these Inktense pencils. It's just watching the scribbly pencil on the page go to this smoother, way deeper and brighter colour is very, very relaxing to do. I highly recommend it, and this sort of project is perfect for that when you have quite like simple shapes to just follow with your brush, and all you need is just one of these pencils and a brush and some water, and it's really, really ideal. I've been really impressed with how this paper has taken water, because being a very smooth, quite thin paper, there was the possibility that it wouldn't have taken it well, would have buckled a lot. And while I wasn't using a lot of water here, it's held up quite well to all of my tests so far. So really looking forward to using the rest of the sketchbook and seeing what we can make in it. I decided to include a little tiny bit of slightly shaky real-time footage here. This was me holding my phone in one hand and painting with the other, but it's not too inaccurate to how I was painting, but you can really see the magical transformation up close as the pencil goes from lead to ink, if you like, on the paper. And it really was a labor of love to keep these lines smooth and try not to smudge anything. As you can see, I was using a piece of paper here to like rest my hand on so I wouldn't smudge anything too much, because I noticed at the bottom of the D there I had got a little bit of the lead on the paper, but I managed not to make it any worse than it already was. And previously I was just using a piece of kitchen paper and decided that that wasn't ideal. But I really, really love the impact that this gives. Really love the contrast of the indigo on the very, very white paper. Really love the shapes. And I also really love the message. If the quote seems kind of random, it's because it's a kind of a reference to that moment in the Simpsons movie where the guy running the regime has gone kind of mad with power and he's asking for guards for the dome. This is not going to make any sense if you haven't seen the Simpsons movie, but I think a lot of people have. And he said that he wants 10,000 tough guys and he wants 10,000 soft guys to make the tough guys look tougher. And I reference this quote quite a lot. And I just think that bad art to make the good art look gooder is just really representative of how I want to approach my creative practice, with a little bit of silliness and whimsy to balance out the serious nature of genuinely wanting to develop as an artist and find my creative voice, as cringy as that sounds. So thank you so much for joining me on this process. Please do leave a comment and let me know what you think of this particular piece of bad art. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. We're so close to my goal of 1,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate every single one of you for coming with me on this journey. I'll see you next week with another video. Bye for now.